All right, let's shift gears to the very next year, 1996, and uncover why those coins jingling in your cup holder might be hiding another sweet surprise. You just finished hunting for double dies on 1995s. Now imagine a fresh 1996 quarter that slipped through the mint quality checks and ended up in circulation, only to be zoomed past by everyone who thought it was just another D or P strike. But this one contains subtle cues that scream rarity to the sharp-eyed collector. In 1996, the Mint was still using the classic Washington quarter design, but production numbers dipped slightly compared to surrounding years, just over 1.3 billion in Philadelphia and 1.6 billion in Denver. That might sound like a lot, but when you factor in the explosion of quarters from the Statehood series starting in 1999, suddenly that mid-90s output seems modest. And within that run of ordinary dates, a handful of errors and special strikes stand out. The most famous being the 1996 double die reverse, where the E pluribus unum and the olive branch details show a faint secondary impression. Collectors estimate fewer than a dozen of these DDR double die reverse specimens exist across all grades, making them far scarcer than their 1995 double die obverse cousins. When one pops up, it typically goes to auction with a starting bid around $800 to $1,000 for an MS65 example, but MS66 pieces have soared past $2,500. Add an S-proof version into the mix, and you're talking figures that start at $50 for the average PF69 and climb toward $120 for the coveted PF70 Deep Cameo. Beyond double dies, there's another twist. 1996 saw the release of special mint sets only available to collectors, which included satin finish quarters from Philadelphia and Denver. These strikes, free from bag marks and boasting smooth, matte fields, have a niche following. In PR6A condition, they routinely command $15 to $20, while a pristine PR70 satin finish can break $75. The satin sets aren't as widely recognized as the silver proofs, which means savvy collectors sometimes scoop them up at dealer shows for bargain prices before word spreads. Now, let's talk mint mark anomalies. A rare few 1996 quarters were discovered with misplaced mint marks. Tiny DS stamped too far from the bow ribbon on Liberty's neck. They're so minute that you'll need at least 10 times magnification to spot the shift, but grading services have authenticated a handful, and auctions have seen them reach $300 to $400, depending on grade. If you're sorting through pocket change and notice the mint mark perched oddly, don't shrug it off. Auction records tell another compelling part of the story. In late 2024, a PCGS-graded MS67 DDR Philadelphia specimen sold for $3,200, setting a new benchmark for the variety. Ever since, dealers have been combing through coin rolls and service strike donations to clubs, hoping to unearth another. Those who strike gold, or should I say, silver, often credit sheer luck and tenacity. One diehard collector shared how he inspected nearly 10,000 circulated pieces before finding the prized error. For everyday folks, though, the bulk of 1996 quarters remain at face value if they're worn. A lightly circulated example grades in the VF30 to XF45 range and still changes hands around 30 to 35 cents if sold in bulk lots. Jump up to AU58, and you might eke out 50 to 75 cents apiece. It's a stark reminder that without those minting mishaps or special strikes, most coins stay just pocket change. One fun tidbit. Rumor has it a Maryland high school teacher turned a classroom project into a gold mine when her students rolled and counted spare change to learn arithmetic and uncovered 2 DDRs and a misplaced mint mark quarter. She auctioned them off to fund next year's textbooks, scoring about $1,200 in all. It's the kind of classroom success story that makes you want to peek in every piggy bank. So next time you find a handful of 1996 quarters hiding under couch cushions or rattling in your car door, give them a closer look under a bright light. The tiniest doubling or mint mark oddity could spell a pleasant surprise and maybe even pay for your next coffee run. Ready for the journey back to 1969? In our next segment, we'll explore how a 60s quarter revolutionized the collecting world with a single designer's touch. Rolling forward to 1987, The Washington quarter was still riding high on its original design, but hidden among the millions of generic circulation strikes lay a few that would send seasoned collectors scrambling. That year, the Philadelphia Mint produced roughly 2 billion quarters, while Denver chipped in another 1.75 billion. Numbers so large you'd think everything from that date would be common as dirt. Yet a handful of minting quirks and finish variations give 1987 quarters their own cachet, and spotting one could turn your pocket change into a tidy payday. First, let's talk about the subtle design tweaks. In 1987, the Mint experimented with a new master hub that sharpened Liberty's hair ties and slightly narrowed the rim. Most collectors don't notice these changes without side-by-side comparisons, but the tight rim variety, where the raised border sits closer to the design elements, commands a small premium. In uncirculated grades, MS63 to MS65, tight rim 1987 sell for around $3 to $8, versus the typical $1 to $2 for the wide rim counterparts. At MS66, the gap widens, with tight rims fetching $15 to $25. But the real headline grabbers are the double die reverse errors. In the harsh glare of magnification, certain 1987 D coins show a faint doubling on the olive branch and the words United States of America. Known as the 1987 DDR, these errors slipped into circulation by the dozens, but not the hundreds, making them scarce yet accessible finds. An MS65 example might sell for $200, while a top-graded MS67 has soared past $1,500 in recent auctions. Even circulated 1987 DDRs trade for $75 to $100, provided the doubling is bold enough to be unmistakable. If you thought mint errors were the only twist, consider the polished circulation strikes. Toward the end of 1987, the Mint began experimenting with extra shiny planchets, coins that look almost proof-like right out of the bag. Collectors refer to these as SP, or satin-proof finishes, and they exhibit a soft, satiny sheen with fewer contact marks than typical business strikes. In grades from SB65 to SP67, these coins trade between $10 and $40. A perfect SB68 could reach $75. Since these finishes weren't officially documented until years later, many of these coins ended up in loose change, undetected in pocket dumps and register tills. Of course, condition remains the ultimate driver of value for all 1987 quarters. A well-worn VF20 grades for face value, while an AU58 might fetch $1 or $2 from a dealer. But when you move into pristine MS67 territory for a standard strike, values climb from $15 at the lower end to $40 or more for those with deep, silky luster. And if that MS67 also happens to be a tight rim or satin finish, you're looking at a double boost in price. And now, as we wrap up our journey from 1995 all the way back to 1987, remember this: every coin in your drawer tells a story. From die errors hiding in plain sight to experimental finishes that slipped through quality control, Washington quarters have continued to surprise us for decades. Whether you're a veteran collector or simply someone curious about the change jingling in your cup holder, keep your eyes sharp and your loop ready, because the next treasure might be closer than you think. Let's shift gears and dive into our second featured coin, one that's often shrugged off as just another quarter, but in the world of dedicated collectors, it holds surprising value and potential. I'm talking about the 1979 Washington quarter. At face value, this coin looks like something you've handled 1,000 times. It's not commemorative. It doesn't have a flashy or unique design, and it doesn't mark a special anniversary. But that's exactly what makes it fascinating. It hides in plain sight, and in the right condition or with the right minting quirks, it could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Now, let's rewind to 1979 for some context. It was a transitional time for U.S. coinage. The Mint was putting a huge amount of attention and energy into launching the brand new Susan B. Anthony dollar, the first U.S. coin to feature a real woman rather than a symbolic one like Lady Liberty. While all eyes were on the dollar, other denominations, like the quarter, kept moving along quietly under the radar. And with such divided focus, it's no surprise that 1979 quarters came with a few surprises of their own. The 1979 Washington quarter was minted at all three major facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia quarters carry no mint mark. The Denver ones are marked with a D, and the San Francisco ones have this. Between these three mints, the U.S. struck hundreds of millions of quarters that year. Specifically, over 515 million came out of Philly, and over 489 million were minted in Denver. So again, you might be wondering, how can a coin that was made in such staggering numbers be rare or valuable? Well, the short answer is, most of them aren't. But the devil is in the details. Let's start with the concept of condition-based rarity. When coins are struck in such large volumes, mint quality control can suffer. Dies wear down, pressure varies, and coins are handled in bulk. This leads to soft strikes, nicks, scratches, and all the things that disqualify a coin from being considered gem quality. So when a 1979 quarter surfaces in a near-perfect grade, say MS67 or higher, it suddenly becomes a lot more than just 25 cents. These ultra-high-grade coins are extremely scarce. To put it in perspective, PCGS, the professional coin grading service, has graded thousands of 1979 quarters, but only a tiny fraction have reached the top population grades. A 1979 D quarter graded MS 67 Plus sold for over $1,500 at auction. Why? Because that's the best known example. When you're a registry set collector trying to build a top-ranked collection, you need the finest known specimens, and you're willing to pay for them. And then we have mint errors, which can turn even a common coin into a unique collectible. One of the most exciting types of errors on 1979 quarters is the off-center strike. These happen when the coin blank isn't properly aligned with the dies during minting. The result? A quarter with the design shifted significantly off-center. If the date and mint mark are still visible, these coins can fetch anywhere from $100 to over $500 depending on how dramatic the misalignment is. Another coveted error is the double die obverse. This occurs when the coin die is impressed twice with a slight misalignment, leading to doubled images on the coin. Most often in the date, the word Liberty or In God We Trust. While not as famous or valuable as, say, the 1955 double die cent, the 1979 quarter double dies still spark strong interest among collectors and can sell for several $100s if verified and graded. And then there are wrong planchet errors, which are especially cool. These occur when a quarter is accidentally struck on a blank intended for another coin, like a nickel or even a foreign coin. These errors are extremely rare, but they do exist. Imagine a quarter-size coin that weighs less or has a noticeably different color or thickness. That's often a sign it was struck on the wrong planchet. One known 1979 quarter was struck on a copper-nickel dime blank, and it sold for well over $1,000 due to its sheer rarity. Let's not forget clipped planchets, errors where a piece of the blank coin is missing due to a misfeed in the cutting press. These crescent-shaped clips are immediately noticeable and add a lot of character. A well-defined clipped planchet 1979 quarter in decent condition can easily fetch $100 to $300 or more, depending on how clean and dramatic the clip is. Now, switching over to the San Francisco Mint, most 1979 S quarters were proof coins intended only for collectors. These were struck with special polished dies and carefully handled to ensure a mirror-like finish. While they were never meant for circulation, mistakes still happened. Some ended up with errors like missing clad layers or cloudy surfaces from improper handling. Others, especially in flawless condition, have become highly sought after for their grade alone. A 1979 S-proof quarter graded par 70 deep cameo, that's the highest grade possible, can be worth $300 to $500 or more. Only a few hundred examples may exist in that perfect state, and collectors who build registry sets often compete to own the finest known proof strikes of each year. So what does all this mean for you? It means that even something as seemingly mundane as a 1979 quarter might hold a story, a twist, or a hidden treasure. You can find one in a roll of bank-wrapped quarters. or it could be lurking in a family coin jar that hasn't been touched in decades. If you come across a 1979 quarter with sharp, crisp details, no scratches, and bright original luster, don't shrug it off. Have it evaluated. And if you see anything odd about the design, the alignment, or the planchet shape, you might be holding a rare mint error that's worth serious money. Here's something else collectors love: the thrill of the unknown. Even today, new varieties and errors are still being discovered from coins minted decades ago. Just last year, a 1979 quarter with an unusual die break was reported by an amateur collector, and experts confirmed it was a newly recognized error type. These kinds of discoveries prove that numismatics is always evolving, and even common dates can yield surprises. So whether you're a seasoned collector or someone just getting started, don't underestimate coins from the modern era. They might not have the silver content or historical weight of 19th century pieces, but they do offer affordability, accessibility, and, best of all, the thrill of the hunt. Let's bring it all together. Today, we explored two coins that most people pass over without a second thought: the 1992 Close AM quarter and the 1979 Washington quarter. Both are modern, relatively recent, and absolutely packed with potential. The 1992 Close AM is all about spotting a tiny but valuable design variation, while the 1979 quarter proves that even ordinary coins can be extraordinary with the right errors or in the right condition. And here's the big takeaway: valuable coins aren't always ancient gold or hidden behind glass in museums. Sometimes they're tucked into coin rolls at your local bank or sitting in a pocket change jar in your own home. All it takes is a little knowledge, a sharp eye, and a willingness to dig deeper. So go ahead, check your stash. Flip those quarters. Look closely at the details, because you never know when you might stumble across a small piece of metal that tells a much bigger story. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this dive into rare quarters, be sure to like, subscribe, and let us know what you'd like us to cover next. Until then, keep hunting and happy collecting.